The Footprints Conversations series feature discussions and insights from accomplished workplace and marketplace leaders and their experiences on key leadership principles. As believers, we are supposed to practice these biblical leadership principles in our workplace and marketplace to help us fulfill our calling. The Footprints Conversations this week focuses on professional calling. Understanding the specific calling behind our professional work and business is very important. Being fulfilled in our profession and our business does not come from the position, status, paycheck, business profits, or the material things like the buildings and cars. All these things are temporary and do not have any eternal values and fulfillment. We cannot take them beyond life on earth. This week, we are very honored to have a distinguished governor to help us focus our minds on the part of our profession that gives eternal values and fulfillment. Please let's welcome Honorable Nehemiah to the Footprints Conversations.
Greetings to your audience. I am happy to be here to help.
Honorable, we understood that as believers we have different types of calling. It could be the calling as a priest, wife, husband, father, mother, worker, businessperson, and others. This week, our discussion will focus on our calling that has to do with earning our living as workers and businesspeople. Should earning a living have a calling behind it?
I like the way you put it. The calling behind earning a living as a worker or a businessperson. Tragically, we lose our purpose and the actual calling when we regard our professional and business work as just earning a living. Unfortunately, many believers do not understand that there is a higher calling beyond earning a living.
Can you use your experience to help us understand the calling behind earning our living?
I had the opportunity to earn a living as the head butler to the king and as a governor of the province of Judah. But I saw myself as the minister and vessel of the Lord in each of these positions. I was not there just to earn a living but to be used as a minister. My employer was the Lord. My work is the ministry.
This is remarkable. Isaiah 61 verse 6 says, "We will be called priests of the Lord, ministers of our God." Does this mean that we are full-time ministers in our workplace and marketplace?
Of course. Where else could our full-time ministry be than at our workplace and marketplace where we spend most of our time? Ezra was the priest. I was not a priest, but I saw myself as a full-time minister with a calling at my workplace. If I didn't distinguish myself as working for the Lord as a butler, the Lord would not have given me the opportunity to work with the king. And certainly, the king would not even have listened to me if I was doing sloppy work. My work was my ministry that should bring glory to the Lord who put me there.
Thanks for that insight. About the calling, His Excellency Moses told us at one of the Footprint Conversations that concern is the hay nest of calling. So if we could look at your concern underling the calling. Is that okay with you?
Sure, and I totally agree with His Excellency Moses on that. In my case, as I told you, I was the butler for the king. But I realized that the Lord put me in that position for a purpose. While in that position, I still had concern about the situation that those who survived the exile were going through in Jerusalem. The walls were broken down, the gates were burnt down, and the people were in great trouble and disgrace. No security, no stability, no decent employment, no basic amenities, and no dignity. In fact, I really wept when I heard of their misery. I also fasted for some days and confessed our sins that have brought us into this situation.
Honorable, this is beyond exemplary, and I want to make sure that the audience catches that. As a foreigner, you became the head butler and had access to the king. With that influential and enviable position, someone would have prided himself as the most favored among the lot and despise others, less favored.
I would have despised others and considered myself as privileged if I didn't have the conviction that I was in that position, not because I was better than others, but there was a purpose and a calling behind that position. As Queen Esther, the first lady to King Xerxes, the father of my boss, said, "For such a time as this." I believe this should be every believer's understanding for every position she occupies. For such a time as this. It is not how smart or privileged you are. The purpose for that position is beyond you.
If you are in the audience and a believer, there is no reason why you should not take note of this. You are in that position for such a time as this. Now let's get back to your concern, Honorable. You didn't think of enjoying your position, wealth, and comfort with only your family. It would have been commendable if you had stopped at showing concern about others' trouble in Jerusalem. But you went beyond that and wept. You fasted, prayed, and confessed the sins also on their behalf. You did this when you were living a great life? Again, this is beyond exemplary.
If you don't have that understanding and conviction of being there, for such a time as this, you may take your position as just an opportunity to earn a living. You may look down on those with lesser opportunities to earn a living, and you may not care about others except yourself and your family. Let me also add that you cannot have the Spirit of the Lord and think only about yourself. Concern for others gives us the opportunity to align our hearts with the Lord's heart.
This is well said. Concern for others gives us the opportunity to align our hearts with the Lord's heart. So, I learnt the king himself noticed your concern and sadness, and that concern became the hay nest for your calling?
Yes, that was the first time I had been sad in the king's presence. I told him why I was sad and asked him to give me some time to go back and rebuild the city walls and the gates of Jerusalem.
Honorable, you took such a great risk. You could have lost your position. You could have been replaced while you were away. Besides, you could have been accused of treason and having an intent for insurrection. The government destroyed the walls, the gates, and carried the Israelites as slaves from Judah. And you were seeking permission to undo what the government himself executed. Why did you take that risk?
As I said, calling is embedded on thinking about others too, not just myself, my position, interests, and benefits. The paradox was that the Lord had all those covered as I yielded for the calling to be used to serve others in the calling. I was assured of the gracious hand of the Lord on me that made the king to grant my request.
And we also learnt that you became appointed as the governor of Judah, and you were in that position for 12 years?
Yes, that was part of the calling. It was more like a nation building and not just building walls and gates. I have to implement institutional, financial, religious, political, and legal reforms to rebuild the nation.
Great. We will appreciate your availability next week to teach us how you use the calling to communicate the vision and to mobilize the people for the nation building. That would be very useful lessons for us.
I will make myself available for that.
Let's thank Honorable Nehemiah for using his experience to tell us how the purpose of our work or position should not only be to earn a living, and how our professional calling should be embedded on concern beyond our interests, position, and benefits. We can't wait for next week. Join me in showing our appreciation.
If this Footprints conversation has been a blessing to you, pass it on to be a blessing to others. Are you a believer committed to fulfilling your professional calling at your workplace and marketplace? We have several resources to help you do that. Just subscribe at the YouTube channel for you to receive new resources we create every week. If you have creative arts talents too, get in touch and let us yield it to the Lord to use it to impact lives for His glory.